Donk Nation, Jack Sanjanets, greetings and welcome to your Daily Dose of Donkey with Ginger. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, bringing you the first serious Steelers talk of the season. Gonna be by myself today. Lasker's Gingy timing didn't work out, recording it a little early because vacation stuff is messing with everything. But we have the Steelers, we have the Jets, we have football that counts, although it might not be the best football out there, as teams don't seem to take the preseason as a ramp up for the regular season, but more as a way to evaluate the bottom of the roster nowadays. Neither here nor there. I do have Lasker's picks, I do have Gingy's picks, so we'll be sure to get those in during the show. And we have lots of stuff to talk about. The most recent injury report is Wednesday, so some other crazy stuff since then happens. We'll go ahead and try to maybe put in the comments or something. But injury report, Steelers going to be without Derek Harmon. We have limited practice from Herbig, maybe a slight deal there, but without one of the starting defensive ends. But the bigger injury news is on the Jets side, losing probably their best offensive lineman, Elijah Vera Tucker. Sounds like he might be out for the season. He's at least going to miss this game. Looks like their backup tackle, Chuck Okorafor, should be a little bit known to Steelers fans. Looks like he also might miss this game on the Jets side of things. But when we get into breaking down this football game, let's start with the Steelers' defense against the Jets' offense. This is a Jets' offense that's going to be led by Justin Fields. They're an offense that really struggled protecting the quarterback last year. Not sure it's going to get any better, especially with Vera Tucker out. Skill position-wise, there is definitely some talent for Justin Fields to look out for. I mean, Breece Hall's shown what he can do. Garrett Wilson is shown to be a very capable guy. Josh Reynolds is a guy who had some good seasons with the Rams and then really had his best season with Detroit. Well, I guess you could argue best season with Detroit or the Rams, about 600-yard season in there. Didn't have a good year last year. Aging a little bit. And the guy who's never been anything better than a low-end wide receiver 2 as their number 2 wide receiver. And then, of course, Allen Lazard's still there, very capable, big body wide receiver. Mason Taylor's a rookie from LSU. And, can Justin Fields beat up the Steelers defense? This is a game I really look for the Steelers defense to honestly dominate. This is the type of team they should have an easy go of and should be a big reason why the Steelers are able to be successful. Because I don't see any case where they should not come out and dominate this, even though they haven't played much. I mean, Cam Hayward's going to play, of course. I don't know who's going to step in. I think they had Wyatt Black listed as the backup defensive tackle, so maybe he starts in place of Harmon, another rookie, maybe Loudermilk, maybe Logan Lee. Who knows who's really going to start in that spot? But, I mean, really, you're probably going to see a lot of just Benton and Hayward in the early going. I mean, Watt and Highsmith should be absolutely able to have their way out there. Middle linebackers, got to make sure you wrap up and tackle. They have shifty guys like Breece Hall. Got to make sure you wrap up there. Can't let Justin Fields break contain type of stuff on the defensive side. And then the secondary, we know what Justin Fields can do. He's highly inaccurate with the football. At least he's been through his whole career. But he has the propensity to hit big plays, so you got to make sure you keep everything in front of you and force him to throw the ball into tight windows. That's not where he is successful at. And that's the way I really see them exploiting this. I'm going to look at a lot of probably Thornhill just staying over the top, playing deep side to help out the corners. I look for Ramsey, Slay, Porter, hopefully to be playing a little more press covers than what we've seen the Steelers play in the past, as that's the way to really make Fields have to struggle, keep them off time, don't let him really get in a rhythm or anything like that. And I think that's what you're going to see. That's how I see the game going. I don't really foresee this being a hard one for the Steelers defense to shut down the Jets offense we just talked about. Look for a couple turnovers probably. That's the way Justin Fields has played his whole career, and some of them costly. Now, when we get to the offensive side of the ball here, this is where things are maybe a little different. The Jets have a decent defense out there when you look at it. Will McDonald's is a guy who had double-digit sacks last year, so very capable edge rusher out there. Harrison Phillips has always been a good run stuffer, whether it was in Minnesota or Buffalo prior to that. A guy who's really good at stopping the run. Quinnen Williams is an elite level interior lineman, had a 12-sack season, came off that a little bit more towards the 6, 7, but still, interior, those are really good numbers. He's been a guy who has been dominant in the past. And Michael Clemens is a guy who, that's the weakest spot for me there. You get to the linebacking core, it's a very average one. McCray, Ball, Sherwood, and Williams, or excuse me, McCray, Ball, and Sherwood. Yeah, and Quincy Williams. Quincy Williams probably the best of the bunch. Really decent tacklers. No real hate on any of those guys. Haven't seen enough of them to know a whole lot. I know that Sherwood's a younger guy coming in there. Yeah, I mean, I know he's 25. I know he's a 4-year pro, but he's still a younger guy who's been working his way up, so to speak. McCray Ball's a guy who was more of a special teamer in his rookie year. So interesting to see what happens there, but he was a sure tackler at Indiana. You get to the secondary, this is where things can get a little dicey for the Steelers passing the ball. They have some talent back there. I mean, Sauce Gardner's an absolute monster. I'd expect him to do a decent job of shutting down DK Metcalf on the outside. And then you got a guy like Brandon Stevens. He played a little while for the Ravens as an okay guy, but not really an upgrade for Brandon Eccles, who the Steelers had. So if that tells you where the depth is there, clear, not a huge one. So this is why you have to have a secondary guy break out, and that's why if you listen last week, I really am looking for Roman Wilson to have the absolute breakout. That's what I'm waiting for. They added Andre Cisco over the offseason. I believe he's a guy with Jacksonville 2-3 years ago, was really good at turning the ball over. Struggled a little bit last year, but not to be mistaken as a safety who can't play. He's clearly a guy who's can play. He's proven it before. And then they have another younger guy, one of their picks, Tony Adams. They've been really high on him. He's put up decent numbers, not really anything that's eye-popping. So when you look at the Jets defense, what you see is really a lot of average players, which isn't a bad thing. Elite talent in Sauce Gardner, maybe Quinnen Williams if he's back on his things. Elite talent. Will McDonald, that borderline good to great pass rusher level, but not elite. This is a game that you're happy the Steelers start the season with, because our offense should be able to take advantage of it. This is not a team that's going to crush our offensive line, and maybe we can get a little bit of confidence in that group. Lots of early round talent in that group. We need to see Broderick Jones step up. We need to see Troy Fontanu be healthy and productive. He was a little productive last year, but never was healthy, so can't really judge that. We look at the rest of it. Zach Frazier really needs to come up big. Quinnen Williams is the kind of guy that can push Zach Frazier back. We saw it last year. That cannot happen this year. It's probably going to be a run-heavy offense, at least in the first week, when Aaron Rodgers is still getting his feet wet. So they'll look for a little more run than I think you'll see later in the season. But that's going to put a lot of pressure on Zach Frazier, Isaac Seumalo to take that step forward, and Mason McCormick to show that he's, I didn't expect him to play as a rookie. I liked him. We talked about that. But see him take a step forward into being NFL starter and not fringe starter type, which is where he currently is. And there's nothing wrong with that. A developmental pick. Absolutely the type of guy who could make a difference. Special teams might play a part in this. And, of course, the Steelers in the kicking game, until proven otherwise, Boswell is always an advantage, especially over an old guy like Nick Folk, who, let's be honest, doesn't have the biggest leg in the world, although he's been highly accurate. What is it, like 95% the last 2 years in Tennessee is what his field goal make percentage was. I mean, Nick Folk's been out of his mind the last 2 years. Just not a whole lot of deep kicks going to come from him. McNamara as the punter. He's a guy who was averaging like 50 yards a punt in the preseason, so he's a guy that could flip the fields. I'll say maybe we give him a slight nod over Corliss Waitman, and maybe that's a big difference. Of course, it looks like the Steelers, I don't know, they didn't have Kuntz on the injury report, so maybe he's ready to go for week 1. Hadn't really looked into that. Special teams might play a big part. But what do we expect to see when the Steelers are on offense against the Jets? I expect to see a lot of sloppy football, let's be honest. These guys haven't played a whole heck of a lot together, and there's not a whole lot of chemistry that's been shown on the field because Aaron Rodgers hasn't been on the field. Maybe they come out and they look lights out, but I do not see that being the case. I see this game being a really sloppy game, a struggle to score game, I think the Steelers run the ball effectively, not great, but I think they're effective in the running game. I really look for Jaylen Warren to be about the 4 yard a carry mark, and I think Caleb Johnson comes in around 3.7. And I know those aren't great numbers, but like I said, effective numbers, not bad numbers, effective numbers. I expect they'll get better through the year as the parts tend to mesh a little better, and more importantly, as the pass game becomes more efficient. I think the biggest problem is going to be we're going to be a little inefficient on the passing game. I think we're going to struggle in third downs. But I do think there's going to be a couple big plays to be had, and I think they're going to be on the outside by Roman Wilson and up the middle by Darnell Washington. Those are the two guys I really think could be an X factor for this offense. And I think week 1 is the perfect time to put that X factor into a showcase, so to say. And I think the Steelers do enough to absolutely eke by a not very good Jets team. I'll get to the exact score a little later, but that's what I'm looking for when the Steelers are on offense. I'm looking for sloppy football by the Steelers. I don't really think turnovers are a part of it, although Jaylen Warren might put one on the ground. I could see a fumble being a turnover that happens, but I don't think Rodgers really throws an interception. I think he avoids Sauce Gardner. I think you see DK Metcalf have his first little anger fit as a Steeler because he's good for one every 4 weeks. I think you're going to see a little bit there. I really think it has to be the not primary guys who come up big. I mean, Firemouth's probably going to get shut down. I think in some odd running looking formations, Darnell Washington's the guy who's going to leak out and has to make the plays. On the other side, clearly, if Sauce Gardner plays, he was limited, but he should play. If he doesn't play, then look for DK to probably have a big day. But if he does play, look for DK to be a little bit shut down, probably like 4 for 50 type of range. And look for Roman Wilson to be the guy who absolutely breaks out and has the game because, sometimes someone has to step up. At this case, someone really does have to step up, and I'm really hoping it is Roman Wilson going there. We have other games going on in the AFC North, though, so let's go ahead and let's start with those picks. And, of course, with the first one, we have is it the Bengals going to the Browns? Is that how it works? Yeah, Bengals going to the Browns. And on that game, we have Gingy taking the Bengals, Laskers taking the Browns. Man, this is a weird one. I don't know what to say about this, but I think the Bengals start the year off hot. I think Joe Burrow comes out and lights it up. And the second game, we have a really big game in terms of AFC predictions. Week 1, a game that could highly matter. We have Baltimore going to Buffalo. Sorry about that. My mic decided to shut itself off. So if you didn't get those picks, that was me, Donkey, taking the Bengals, Lasker's on the Browns, and Gingy's on the Bengals. We have the Ravens going to Buffalo in a game that really could matter for a lot of end of the year stuff if people are to be believed, and these are to be two of the higher teams. So coming into week 1, I really think the playability of Lamar Jackson and just the ability to hand the ball straight to Derrick Henry. And don't get me wrong, I understand run game in Buffalo really good out there too. But I like the Ravens. Gingy also likes the Ravens, and Laskers likes the Bills. So there we go. Got a little differentiation here on who's picking who. And then we go to the game that matters, the Steelers versus the Jets. We'll start with Laskers. Steelers 31, Jets 18, with Aaron Rodgers looking like his vintage self, is what Laskers says. So I like that. I like that a lot. We got Gingy going 27-18. Apparently 18's the spot for the Jets here. And his X Factor is TJ Watt. No big surprise there. As a guy who could absolutely and probably should absolutely wreak havoc on this game. Show that that big contract was well worth it. As for me, I have to go. Yeah, I like the Steelers. I like the Steelers at 17. I think there's 2 touchdowns and a field goal. And I like the Jets at 15, but not necessarily the way you expect it, as I do think they'll have a touchdown in there. You can try to figure out how we get to the rest of it. But I do think they score a touchdown. I think there's a big late game turnover by Justin Fields, specifically a fumble trying to do a little bit too much late in the game. I think the Steelers, and this is why I said I think they effectively run the ball, I think they get it with about 5-6 minutes left and are able to run out the clock. That's how I see the game going. Hope it goes that way. Hope all the picks are good. And amazing for that. And I had to give my X Factor, of course, and it's going to be Roman Wilson, as I think he has the play of the game with a long touchdown, something over 40 yards on a pass from Aaron Rodgers in the second half on a just absolute breakdown on the back end of the Jets. So those are our picks. That's where we're going. Hopefully next week we have Gingy. I don't think we'll have Laskers for a little bit, but we'll keep his picks up there so everybody can judge. Leave your picks in the comments so we can do a little poll, see how things are going. Thank you all for staying with me through the whole entire thing. I have to go ahead and do a shout out at this point, I guess, is where we are. I don't really know who to give a shout out to, though. You know what? Let's give a shout out to Mike Tomlin to start this year, because this is a year he's going to put it over the hump. I'm going full positive. I'm giving nothing but positive energy on this. Let's get into it. Let's have that season where Aaron Rodgers gives us back a Super Bowl that he had taketh from us before. So we're going to shout out Mike Tomlin, the coach who didn't have a losing season, getting that Super Bowl to absolutely put a shimmer, a shine on what has been to this point a Hall of Fame career, although highly questionable about the last few years. Put it to rest, put doubters like me to rest, and make it something special. Let's start at week 1. Let's start it with a shout out for the coach, and let's see a Steelers W to start the season strong on a season where we're going all in. Donk Nation, thank you all for tuning in. I am the Viking Donkey. That's Viking_Donkey at Twitch and Twitter. Your Daily Dose Donkey with Ginger's an awesome YouTube channel where you get this sweet content. We'll be doing bug caps again this year. Maybe doing a power ranking show. Bringing in maybe some more content if we find other little quick things that we can do. But appreciate y'all. Love all the comments. Love all the positivity, negativity. However you want to bring it. It's all good and welcome and appreciated. But Donk Nation, Steeler Nation, it is football time. It is time to wave them if you got them and chant, "Here we go, Steelers, here we go."